Hello everybody, my name's Stephen Ritchie. I'm making some sculpture for Brighton. And one of the four sculptures that I'm making for Brighton on this one project is of some newspapers. Now, newspapers have been around a long time and they've been printed in Brighton for quite a long time as well. Now, on this particular site, it stopped, and that's why I'm making a piece of sculpture about it. So it's an unusual project. It's all in perspective again. I've got a drawing and a K model like I have with the other bits of sculpture. And yeah, once mentioning that I'm now going to be part of the history of newspapers by producing this sculpture. Yeah. So Caxton brought print over in 1476 and started printing mainly Bibles and things and translating German stuff into English, and took a couple of 100 years really before anybody started printing anything really useful or news. I say that, I looked it up, that there was a little pamphlet and it was talking about the Battle of Flodden in 1513, and that's when 40,000 odd Scots come charging across the border with a bit of French help and a bit of French equipment, and tried to tear up the English, and they got beaten up by the English and sent a running. But there was a little pamphlet written about that, and you could have called that a newspaper, I suppose. And obviously, you know, the Dutch and other European countries were printing news and newspapers as such. And, you know, Civil War, everybody wanted to know where the battle lines were. So both sides, the Royalists and the Parliamentarians, were both producing pictures. So that's like 1640s, early, where was the Civil War? 1640 to 51, was it? Yeah, something like that. Oh, yeah, look, I've written it there. So, yes, there's been newspapers around. You know, the Reformation came in, where the Charles II came in, so 1660. He did a government thing, Oxford Gazette, later to be called the London Gazette. So by the 1695, someone actually termed the thing as the first newspaper, 1695. Really the newspaper as we think of a newspaper, which would be sort of, you know, something that's printed on both sides of a bit of paper and stuff, didn't really start happening until 1702. But by this time, there's a lot more literacy about. People were hungry for news. In 1702, annual turnover of newspapers, 2.4 million, which is a pretty high number. So they'd obviously got the printing mechanism a lot more efficient. And the explosion in that 100 years, particularly for the English and for the United Kingdom, was huge. You know, we were setting up empires and travelling around the world. So by 1801, there was 16 million annual. So a huge, great jump in population, jump in influence around the world, a huge interest, obviously, in what was going on around the world and our influences of what was going on. And, you know, so it really sort of took a good 300 years from, you know, a newspaper up to the present day, where newspapers are starting to become a little bit more in doubt. I mean, let's think, is it 2011, the News of the World closed after 168 years. You know, Murdoch and his lovely team were hacking people's phones to get their news and got closed down. He ought to be careful with some of the Sky products that he produces, particularly ones in America. Might happen to him again. He can't keep talking rubbish and then getting away with it. So Murdoch, watch out. So what else have we got? You know, the online thing has come on. So by 2012, apparently the Mail had 140 million people looking online at their paper. How many of those are subscribers, I couldn't tell you, but you know, it's still a huge amount. And obviously it was coming away from newspaper printing. And then of course by 2017 there was really being brought into question on whether, you know, Facebook and Google are really news organisations, and they can't really validate some of their news. Anyone can say anything or accuse somebody of anything, but, you know, are you a journalist? Are you? Yeah, it's all got a bit mixed up now. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still 5 billion people reading newspapers on a regular basis. And there's 1.7 billion websites out there producing all sorts of stuff. So yeah, the world has changed, and on this particular site in Brighton they have stopped producing newspapers, and that's the point of my sculpture. So as I said, a really difficult thing to produce at the moment. I'm really showing as if there's 5 newspapers laying on top of each other's, and my definition of a newspaper in this particular case is of a daily, weekly, large scale sheets that are folded and contains news and pictures and in my case probably photographs and ads and things, you know. So that's the sort of picture that I'm trying to portray in still. Very difficult one to do this. I'm producing 4 of them first and trying to finish and tidy them up, because 4 I can manhandle on the bench quite easily. The 5th one I shall do slightly separate and then attach it at the end, because after that point it starts to get a bit too heavy and a little bit difficult to manhandle. Got sidelined twice, not on, only for a couple of days. One going to the singer-songwriter's house, John Newman, because I've got a mutual friend, a chap that house sits for him, or does up to recently anyway. And he had some very interesting motorbikes that we all wanted to go and have a look at, because he's a very skilled man. He's a bit unusual in the musical industry, if you like. He's actually done a bit of an apprenticeship, an engineering apprenticeship, so he's perfectly capable of making and building cars, of which he's done. But he's decided to pull away from that so he can focus totally on his wife and in the music industry. And he's selling off his stuff. So I was in need of a new welder. And I'll do a separate film, a little short film on John Newman. It was a lovely afternoon. And the other thing I got sidetracked is a fuel tank. And again, I shall do a separate film on that, and anybody else I happen to bump into at the time. So yeah, an interesting month or so. I've been on this particular job. I'm not finished it. I've now stopped for Christmas. And I'll take this opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay safe. Coronavirus is still out there. There are still friends of mine that are catching corona, some vaccinated, some not vaccinated. So I fear and worry about what's going on there. But I wish them all the very best. And let's hope we can get rid of this. Let's hope we have a better 22, eh? Because 20 and 21 has been pants, really, as far as coronavirus is concerned. But look, stay safe, everybody. I hope this has been informative. I've tried to give a bit of a history lesson. I don't know why. Just got stuck into things, you know, like you do. So, look, thank you very much for watching. I shall bring you a final film of this particular project when I get back in the new year. So, stay safe, everybody. Have a nice year. Bye now.
You give me that special feeling.